though we have issued a watch for heavy rainfall and you didn't have the experience you didn't experience any difficulty on your road down to here. So recall on COP27 last year, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres made a very important statement. In his speech, he mentioned, based on what we were experiencing in this part of the world, that is SADC, basically hit by cyclones like Idai, Kenneth, Batsirai. So those years were very difficult, and we have lost, unfortunately, a lot of lives. And we also experienced a lot of extreme events around the world. Especially, you'll find that developing countries and small island states were most exposed. And this is the reason why the UN Secretary General came up with a very bold statement saying that all people, and I quote it, all people on earth must be protected by early warning system within 5 years. So this was last year. So this year, if you count, we have 4 years, and you take us from next year, it's only 3 years. So it's a huge task in front of us. Once again, good morning. I'm Dr. Bunyadi, Deputy Director of the Mauritius Meteorological Services, and I will be the MC for both today and tomorrow. Dr. Cowell, Senior Chief Executive of the Ministry of Local Government and Disaster Risk Management, Dr. Dermia, Director of the MMS, Mr. Sébastien, representative of the Resident Coordinator for Office of Mauritius and Seychelles, Mr. Sukoya, representing the officer in charge of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Center, senior officers from various ministries, parastatal bodies. I don't see any. Is there anyone from private sector, please? No, unfortunately there is none. So, representative from UNDR, WMO, ITU, and IFRC. Colleagues from the MMS and Disaster Management Center, representative of media, a very good morning to you. So advances in the early warning system and preparedness have saved tens of thousands of lives and $100 billion in the economy. Why? Because we are emphasizing on people-centered, end-to-end, multi-hazard early warning system. So as you can see, beat all risks, risk reduction and climate change adaptation measures, early warning, early action, and I'm sure our lady over there, she's going to talk about early action tomorrow or even today in the afternoon during the break, is important as it is best proven and cost-effective method. There are cost-benefit analyses that are going on currently at the World Meteorological Organization, but the latest figures that I have is that if you invest $1 today, the gain in a few years, it is going to be tenfold. And now they are seeing with all the impact that is happening and industrial, any sort of early warning system, they find that the amount is increasing, and it is gradually going towards this $25. So any $1 you invest now, in return you're going to get around $25. So if one is a bit, I know most of us are scientists, but if you go towards economics and mathematics, so I think this is a very huge figure. And you will agree with me that adaptation, and one form of adaptation is the early warning system. Because why? It has been proven that if you invest in such early warning system, we call it low-hanging fruits. If you recall, as you were a kid, jumping around the garden, picking up the fruits, so with not much effort, you can pick those fruits. So this is something like analogy. You're making the analogy towards investment, because you know adaptation investment is costly. And one way to do it is to have bigger income, bigger return if you invest very well in the early warning system. So as of 2022, almost half of the countries around the world were protected by multi-hazard early warning system. And in November 2022, last year, the UN Secretary General announced the action plan, and in the climate summit this year in September in Nairobi, he announced the action plan for Africa. And I'm pleased to inform you that based on our own effort at the MMS with the World Meteorological Organization and presenting that Mauritius is one of the small island states that is most exposed and vulnerable to the hazards, we happen to be part of the 30 countries that are benefiting from this initiative. I'm very pleased to announce that it was not easy because we had to fight, we had to present our case, and it was agreed during the World Meteorological Congress last year in June, and we were informed at the MMS that we will be part of this early warning initiative. And throughout this year, efforts were put all around these 30 countries to ensure that we at least develop roadmaps and action plan on how we are going to do, how we are going to implement it, because we have less than 3 years now to go. So based on that, this is why we are calling this national launch and the consultation workshop with all disaster management agencies and disaster related sectors, I would say, for us to come up with a technical and financial roadmap, as well as certain kind of recommendations that we can put forward at national level to ensure that we are in line with what UN is requesting us to work on. So with these few words, allow me to welcome Dr. Damian to give his speech. Thank you very much.
Dr. Dhananjay Kaul, Senior Chief Executive, Minister of Environment and Disaster Risk Management. Mr. Sebastian Rojal, UN Resident Coordinator Office for Mauritius. Dr. Bunyani, Deputy Director, Med Services. Mr. Sukhaya, representing the Office in Charge, National Disaster Risk Management Center. Experts from the World Meteorological Organization and UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. Officers of different ministries and departments, definitely colleagues from MMS, members of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. It gives me a great pleasure to address you this morning on the occasion of the launching of this national workshop on the early warning for all. Let me at the very outset wish thank you. Thank you all for your presence and extend a warm welcome to participants who have come from overseas. As the Director of the Mauritius Med Services, I stand before you today with a profound sense of purpose and urgency as we embark on a transformative journey towards enhancing our nation's resilience in the face of climate change. This national launch and consultation workshop on early warning for all is a key moment of a collaborative endeavor organized by the Mauritius Med Services in collaboration with the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Center, and definitely with the support from WMO and the UNDRR. This two-day workshop marks the first steps towards milestones that need to be achieved in our commitment to building a robust multi-hazard early warning system to safeguard the lives of the citizens of the Republic of Mauritius. Ladies and gentlemen, you would all agree with me that the global climate crisis is no longer a distant concern. It's already at our doorsteps, influencing our lives, the very fabric of our lives, and the environment in which we are living. As it sits, the Republic of Mauritius is particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Rising temperature, changing patterns of rainfall, the increasing intensity, severity, and frequency of extreme weather events are challenges we can no longer afford to ignore. And also, as you are aware, we can't even control those events. But yet, we could control the impacts of those events on ground through appropriate decisions and actions. As we gather to address these challenges, this workshop provides a crucial platform to assess, strategize, and chart a course towards a more resilient future. This workshop objective is multifaceted, and today we are here to collectively work towards these objectives, namely, take stock of the current state of the early warning systems in Mauritius, explore linkages and alignment among the various ongoing and upcoming initiatives, uphold existing national coordination mechanism, or even possibly reflect on new mechanisms if deemed necessary. Also, we are here to identify gaps in our existing national early warning systems, identify key challenges and barriers, and particularly when we leave this workshop today, it's very important that we establish a national coordination mechanism. Ladies and gentlemen, you will all concur with me that an advanced and effective early warning system is no longer a luxury, but rather a necessity for the protection of our people. The early warning for all is about building a culture of resilience, preparedness, and particularly collective responsibility to empower communities and to make informed decisions so as to prevent any hazards from turning into disasters. As the Director of the Met Services, I humbly call upon each and every one of us sitting here today to embrace a spirit of collaboration and shared responsibility during these two-day deliberations. The challenges we face are daunting, but I'm confident that together we could build the collective strength to overcome them. Let this workshop be a crucible for innovative ideas, strategic partnership, and a renewed commitment to the well-being of our citizens. In conclusion, this national launch and consultation workshops on early warning for all symbolizes our commitment and the commitment of the government of Mauritius towards building a resilient future. May this workshop be a catalyst for positive change, a stepping stone towards a nation that stands tall in the face of adversity, united in purpose, and resilient in the pursuit of a better tomorrow. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, once again to express my appreciation to the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction for their support in bringing the early warning for all initiative to fruition. I thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Dermia. Though it is a very short notice, Mr. Sukaya, would you like to say a few words? It's fine. Thank you very much. So may I call upon Mr. Sebastian to deliver your speech, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Director. Dr. D. Carroll, Senior Chief Executive of the Ministry of Local Government and Disaster Risk Reduction. Director Jomea, Director of the Mauritius Meteorological Services, and Mr. Sukaria, representing the officer in charge of the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Center. My UN colleagues here from UNDRR, WMO, and others. Distinguished guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. It is an immense pleasure for me to join you this morning for the opening ceremony of this national workshop on early warning for all in Mauritius. Last week, COP28 ended with some very positive outcomes. However, we are still on the fast track for a 3 degrees Celsius rise in global temperature, which will increase considerably the climate vulnerability of small island developing states like Mauritius. One proven and cost-effective way to adapt to climate change and protect our population, as Mr. Deputy Director was stressing, from the impacts of more frequent and severe climate events is early warning systems. Mauritius, in that respect, is well known and recognized around the world for the effectiveness of its early warning systems for cyclones. However, as we have seen in recent years, new climate events such as torrential rain, flash floods, and storm surges are becoming more frequent and intense, and there is a need to establish adequate mechanisms to protect our vulnerable communities. As we know only too well, delayed action means more deadly extreme weather events, more deaths, more destruction, and reduces our ability to recover. As you are aware, and as was stressed before, the Early Warning for All initiative was launched at COP27 in 2022 by the UN Secretary General, with the aim to ensure that every person on Earth is protected by early warning systems within 5 years. In that respect, I wish to thank the government of Mauritius for agreeing to be part of the first 30 countries around the globe which are piloting this initiative. We are thus happy to be here today for the official launch of the Early Warning for All initiative in Mauritius. I have no doubt, given the track record of the country in terms of early warning systems, that the dedication of everyone present today and the leadership of the Ministry of Local Governments and Disaster Risk Reduction, as well as the Maurice Meteorological Services and the NDRRNC, that the initiative in Mauritius will be a success. As the initiative unfolds, we should not lose track of what makes an effective early warning system and for whom we are building the same. It is no secret, and you all know, that in a world with such high climate variability, an effective EWS, early warning systems, needs to be multi-hazard and be able to detect different weather and climate events that may occur alone, simultaneously or in cascade, and it has to do so end to end. In the same vein, and this is the third aspect of the early warning systems that I would like to particularly stress, early warning systems need to be people-centered, meaning that they should be designed with how people will interact with them in mind, but also in such a way to empower the target population, the communities, to act on time and in the most adequate manner. It is so easy for us at times to be engulfed in the complexity of systems, and in a world where we are talking about AI, we often forget that our focus is to improve the life of people and to count on them and trust them to deliver. Furthermore, we should strive to ensure that early warning systems developed are inclusive and leave no one behind. It is the most vulnerable of our society who need to be protected the most, and thus any tools developed should cater for their needs and abilities to interact with them. The Early Warning System for All initiative is co-led by the World Meteorological Organization, my colleague Jean-Baptiste is here, and the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, UNDRR, and is supported by the International Telecommunications Union, ITU, and the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, IFRC. It is another concrete example of the UN working as one to support governments around the world, but also a prime example of potential partnerships with the civil society. In this race to adapt to climate change and protect our people and population, partnerships are key and crucial. I am pleased to see in this room so many different stakeholders from different sectors and institutions joining forces together to address a common problem. The success of this initiative rests on the strength of this partnership and the collaboration between us all. It is our shared commitment and readiness to support each other that will bring the results we all want to achieve through this initiative, a safer, more resilient and inclusive Mauritius. I thank the organizers for bringing all those stakeholders together. I wish you a fruitful workshop, and thank you for your very kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sébastien. Rest assured, sir, that we will do our utmost best to meet the requirements of this initiative, and together with NDIMC will be able to beat the targets. So with no much time wasting, may I call upon Dr. Cowell, representing the Minister of Ministry of Local Government and Disaster Risk Management. So the floor over to you for the welcome and the opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bunyadi. Mr. Sébastien Rosel, from the UN Resident Coordinator's Office for Mauritius, Dr. Ram Dermia, Director, Mauritius Meteorological Services, Dr. Bunyadi, Deputy Director, Mauritius Meteorological Services, Mr. Sukaodia, representative of the officer in charge of the National Disaster Risk Reduction Center, experts from the World Meteorological Organization and UNDRR, different stakeholders present, officers of different ministries and departments, members of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you all. At the outset, I wish to present the apologies of the Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Local Government and Disaster Risk Management, for Honorable Anwar Osnu, for not being present this morning. He has presented his apologies in view of his commitments at parliamentary level. So I shall be reading his message and also on his behalf declaring this workshop open. Our world is facing an unprecedented challenge. Global warming is altering our climate, giving rise to extreme weather and climate events that disproportionately impact the least developed countries, small island developing states, and vulnerable communities. Climate change has heightened the unpredictability of weather patterns, making timely and accurate information a lifeline for our people. We find ourselves at a critical juncture in history, where observations around the world are compelling us to take bold and decisive action, which not only focuses on response to disasters, but also capitalizes on the prevention and reduction of disaster risk and preparedness measures. Ladies and gentlemen, the call of the Secretary General of the United Nations to ensure that every person worldwide is protected by early warning systems by 2027 has prompted the launch of the Early Warning for All Global Initiative. An early warning system is not just a technological solution, it is a shield that protects lives, properties, and livelihoods. It serves as our early alert, our advance notice in the face of impending natural hazards that may lead to disasters. The importance of an early warning system in this context cannot be overstated. It is not merely about predicting the weather. It is about providing our citizens with the critical information they need to make life-saving decisions. It is about ensuring that our communities are well prepared and not equipped to face the challenges that climate change throws on our way. For the Early Warning for All initiative, we commit to systematically collect risk data and undertake risk assessments on hazards and vulnerabilities to improve our understanding. We also pledge to develop hazard monitoring and early warning services to anticipate and prepare for impending disasters. We want to emphasize the need to communicate risk information effectively, ensuring it reaches all those who need it in a manner that is understandable and usable. And finally, we recognize the importance of building national and community response capabilities to mitigate the impact of disasters. While governments play a crucial role in driving action on early warning services, we acknowledge the necessity of adopting a whole-of-society approach. It is essential to involve all stakeholders, including civil society and the private sector, to strengthen and sustain early warning services. Disasters and climate change impact people differently based on their gender, age, and other factors. Hence, we must take an intersectional approach to ensure that early warning services are inclusive, responsive, and equitable. Ladies and gentlemen, here in Mauritius, we face unique challenges. Situated in an active tropical cyclone basin, we are among the most vulnerable small island states exposed to sea level rise, flooding, cyclones, and marine-related hazards. The need for capacities to better manage and get ahead of hazardous events is imperative to protect the well-being and resilience of our communities. I wish to highlight that Mauritius has introduced a national disaster risk management structure, including a robust emergency and crisis management mechanism which operates on a three-tier system involving the National Crisis Committee, the National Emergency Operations Command, and Local Emergency Operations Command. It is also worth mentioning that we have our National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Policy, Strategic Framework, and Action Plan 2020 to 2030 for the Republic of Mauritius, which was developed in line with the Sendai Framework. To that effect, key stakeholders are being called upon to put in place 5 years realistic and pragmatic disaster risk reduction management plans for both sector-wise and focused thematic areas. Our National Multi-Hazard Emergency Alert System project is in line with today's theme, Early Warning for All. The first phase of this project provides for a reliable, high-performance system to disseminate warnings and alerts to a maximum number of people and stakeholders in the Republic of Mauritius within an acceptable time frame through a number of communication channels, namely customized SMS target groups, television, radio, the internet, including social media, and so forth. The system for phase 1 has already been tested, lived up, and running since the 24th June 2022. The system was used during heavy rainfall, high wave warning, intense tropical cyclone Freddy, mass casualty evacuation exercise, IO Wave 23, and recently during the torrential rain event of 8 November this year. So far, a total number of 19,400 SMS and emails have been sent using the primary server on 95 different occasions since 2022 to 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, since the Mauritius Meteorological Services has been actively engaged in negotiations with the World Meteorological Organization to be part of the Early Warning Systems for All initiative, I am pleased to confirm that Mauritius is among the 30 countries where this initiative will be implemented as endorsed during the World Meteorological Congress in May-June this year. The recent launch of the Early Warning Systems for All Africa Action Plan at the Africa Climate Summit in Nairobi, Kenya in September this year further solidifies our commitment to the crucial initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, today's event marks a pivotal moment in our journey towards universal meteorological and hydrological early warning systems coverage by 2027. Our objectives for this workshop are clear and ambitious, ranging from reviewing the current state of meteorological and hydrological early warning systems in Mauritius to establishing a national coordination mechanism to guide efforts across the 4 pillars of the early warning systems for all. The government of Mauritius is committed to strengthening the early warning system to meet the evolving needs of our people. We believe that we must invest in technology, infrastructure, and human resources to build a comprehensive system that leaves no one behind. Our goal is not just to warn, but to empower our officers with the knowledge and tools to protect themselves and their families. In adopting a forward-looking approach, we recognize that an early warning system is not only a response to climate challenges, but also a proactive strategy to mitigate their impact. It is an investment in resilience, a testament to our commitment to safeguarding the well-being of every Mauritian. Our actions today is pivotal to securing a resilient future for Mauritius. Let us work together with determination, ensuring that our efforts today resonate across generations to come. With these few words, let me seize this opportunity on behalf of government to extend our gratitude and recognition to all stakeholders, including regional and international donor agencies and friendly countries who are providing assistance and support to our disaster risk reduction and management capabilities, including enhancing of our early warning system. And we will continue to work together to make Mauritius resilient to disasters and calamities. On behalf of the Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Local Government and Disaster Risk Reduction, Honorable Anwar Osnu, I now have the pleasure to declare the workshop open. Thank you for your attention.